If you were in the market for a certain service, like let's say you needed a plumber to fix something at your house, and your best friend said to you, hey, this guy just did all the plumbing on our new bathroom and he did a great job at a great price, you would trust their opinion, right? You'd probably hire that plumber with little to no other research because your trusted best friend is giving you proof that that plumber is the right choice. That same principle is exactly what makes influencer marketing work and why it generates millions of dollars for businesses every single year. Whether you sell products or services, whether you have a good idea of what influencer marketing is or not, I'm going to show you how to take advantage of influencer marketing to increase leads and sales at a profitable rate. And in case you don't know, I'm Brandy with Life Marketing, the digital marketing agency with a mission to help small businesses grow. All right, so what is influencer marketing? If you already know, you can use the timestamps below to jump to the next section. Influencer marketing includes a partnership between a business and an influencer. An influencer is someone who has a lot of followers on social media and specifically a strong relationship with those followers. The influencer promotes the business's products or services in exchange for compensation, and the idea is that the business will make back what they paid the influencer tenfold because the influencer's audience will start buying the product or service too. But let's talk about the mistakes most business owners make with influencer marketing that prevent that outcome from happening. Number one, they don't research their influencers the right way that I'm about to show you. They just pick one that has a lot of followers. And number two, they don't negotiate a good deal with their influencer. So let's talk about how to choose the right influencer to work with for your business. When looking for the right influencers to work with, there are three things to look at: their follower count, their relevance to your product or service, and their engagement rate. So let's break down those criteria really quickly. When it comes to follower count, these are the different categories that influencers can fall into: nano influencers with 1,000 to 10,000 followers, micro influencers with 10,000 to 50,000 followers, mid-tier influencers with 50,000 to 500,000 followers, macro influencers with 500,000 to 1 million followers, and mega influencers with more than 1 million followers. Think celebrities here or like super famous TikTokers. While you might automatically be leaning towards influencers with more followers, there are pros and cons to consider on each side of the spectrum. Influencers with smaller follower counts don't have the reach that macro and mega influencers have, but as a result, they usually have a more intimate and trusting relationship with their followers, which means more influential power when it comes to purchase recommendations. They're also usually cheaper to work with. On the other hand, influencers with larger follower counts can put a ton of eyeballs on your brand and get you reach that smaller influencers simply can't get. They're also usually more experienced in working with brands and can sometimes produce higher quality content for you. So you'll need to consider what's most important to you in this category, and I would recommend testing a couple influencers on both sides of the spectrum to see what brings in the desired results for your business. The second thing we said to look for was relevance to your product or service. Don't just pick someone with a lot of followers solely because they have a lot of followers. You want to pick someone whose account is somehow related to what you sell, because those are the people whose audience is going to be more qualified to buy from you. For example, if you sell yarn and knitting supplies, it would make more sense to work with an influencer that shows you how to knit things on their Instagram account and has 1,000 followers than someone who does tech reviews with 2 million followers. And the last thing we said to look at was their engagement rate. Follower counts don't really carry that much weight if the people following the influencer don't ever look at their content. So a solid way to tell if their followers look at their content or not is to look at their engagement rate. So that begs the question, what is a good engagement rate? These are the benchmarks one study found. For less than 1,000 followers, the average engagement rate is about 8%. For 1,000 to 10,000 followers, 4%. For 10,000 to 100,000 followers, 2.4%. For 100,000 to a million followers, 1.8%. And for more than a million followers, 1.7%. So first of all, this further proves my previous point that more followers is not always the more lucrative option, and that nano influencers usually have higher engagement rates with their followers. And second of all, you can use these benchmarks to tell if an influencer is getting the average engagement rate for their follower count or not. Unfortunately, some of the mega influencers with hundreds of thousands or millions of followers tend to have a lot of what's called ghost followers, which are users on social media platforms who remain inactive and do not really engage in activity. These users follow active members but do not like, comment, message, or post. And you don't want to pay an influencer to put your product in front of people that are not even logging on the app to see the content and we're never going to make a purchase from the start. So that's why you want to choose an influencer with real followers and a real relationship with those followers, which again can usually be gauged by their engagement rate. So how do you calculate an engagement rate? You usually can ask the influencer for these numbers, which we'll get more into in a second, but there are a couple formulas that you can use on your own as well. The more accurate formula is to take the amount of engagement that a post got, meaning like their likes, comments, and shares, and divide that by the reach the post received, and then multiply that number by 100 to get a percentage. But if you're just looking at a public account and you're not the owner or admin of the account, you often cannot see the reach, in which case you can just divide by their follower count or their Reels views if you're looking at the engagement of a Reel. But either way, you'll want to look at this on all of their recent posts to understand what their current average engagement rate is. All right, so with these criteria in mind, their follower count, their relevance, and their engagement rate, the next question is, how do you find the right influencers that meet these requirements? The most straightforward method of doing this is to just get on the Instagram app and search industry relevant hashtags and scroll through the top section to find influencers using the hashtag, and then scope them out from there using our 3 criteria. Otherwise, there are many software and websites out there you can look into from a quick Google search that will help you find influencers, some of which have free options and some of which have paid plans. But if you're just starting out, I like doing it directly in the app just so you can get a feel for what's out there and see what viewers are seeing when they see this influencer's content. Once you find one you like, just DM them or email them. A lot of influencers will have their business email public in their bio for you to utilize. So either way, email or DM, what do you say when you reach out to them? These are the 3 key things you want to include or ask about in your message. Number 1, make a comment that is tailored to them and their recent content so that A, they know you're not an automated bot message, you're a real person, and B, because it shows you care and actually follow their content. Number 2, make a quick, short statement about who you are and why you'd like to work with them. I say quick and short because this message should not be about you, and if the influencer is interested, they will go look at your social media on their own accord, but it is nice for you to introduce yourself. And number 3, say if they are interested, could they send their rates over? So running with our yarn and knitting example from before, here's what a message could look like that encompasses those 3 things. Hey Jessie, I loved your video on how to knit for beginners on Monday. I thought it explained some of the tough steps really well, especially for people who have never knitted before. I wanted to reach out and see if you'd be interested in collaborating as we offer yarn and knitting supplies. Let me know if you'd like to speak more, and if you have a rate card you could send over, that'd be great. Thanks so much, Brandy. So just something short and sweet that knocks out that 3-step checklist. Before we move on, another option with this step that I've seen to be effective if you are Instagram DMing them, to send a voice note reading the message out loud instead of a text-based message. The reason being that tends to stand out, and it doubly proves that you're a real person and not a spam bot. Now, once you get some responses back from influencers and get the ball rolling on your partnership, you'll want to lay down the parameters of the partnership. And if you remember, the other mistake we said businesses make a lot with influencer marketing is failing to negotiate a good deal with their influencer. So let's break down what a good deal with an influencer looks like. Contrary to popular belief, it does not mean you get the influencer to do a collab with you for next to nothing. A lot of businesses are like, hey, will you post a reel and 3 Instagram stories and a feed post in exchange for some product, thinking that that's a good trade-off. But a lot of influencers make their living off of these partnerships, so not only is it kind of insulting to them, it's also not practical for them to even consider that. And if you do find an influencer that will work with you for so little, they're often either not meeting all the criteria that we talked about, or the content that they post for your business is of lesser quality and isn't as effective at converting their followers. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying to pay an arm and a leg either. We ourselves started out as a small business on a small business budget. I get it. I'm just saying for maximum returns, you want the influencer to like working with you and to want to produce good, authentic content for you. And for that to happen, they need to be happy with the deal too. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the best way to define how you are paying them and what they are giving you in return. On average, this is how much influencers cost. These are the averages for Instagram influencer pricing. Nano influencers charge $10 to $100 per post. Micro influencers charge $100 to $500 per post. Mid-tier influencers charge $500 to $5,000 per post. Macro influencers charge $5,000 to $10,000 per post. And mega influencers charge $10,000 or more per post. Now, the averages on TikTok and YouTube fluctuate a little bit, so I will put those on screen here instead of reading them all out. But so you can see how the numbers vary a little. TikTok tends to cost a little less than Instagram because it hasn't been around as long and has been almost deleted altogether as an app several times, so the longevity of the post can be in question. And YouTube is usually a little pricier because there's a lot more work that goes into a YouTube video than a social media post. So those are the averages you can expect to pay an influencer. Now you want to negotiate what you get for those prices. As I mentioned earlier, influencers with high follower counts might be a little bit more experienced in this area, so you might find that they already have a set routine in how they do things when creating content, whereas smaller influencers might have more wiggle room or be more open to create what you want them to create. The important thing here is you don't want to leave any room for interpretation. You should know exactly what they're producing for you, how often, and when. For example, on Instagram, it could be one story slide tagging you and linking to your website, and one reel showing your product in action. On YouTube, it could be a segment in their new video mentioning your brand and linking to your website in the description. And no matter what platform you're working on, make sure they include the appropriate hashtags. Influencers have to let their audience know when the content they are posting is sponsored or paid for, so they usually have to put hashtag sponsored or hashtag SP or hashtag partner, etc. You can come up with your own hashtags for them to use though to replace those. Like in this one, the influencer is working with Lake Pajamas and she has hashtag Lake Partner in her post. Once you have agreed on what exactly is being created for you and for what cost, you want to make sure your review and approval of the content before publishing is in the contract. You want to review and approve the content the influencer has made for you before they post it, especially if it's your first time working with this influencer. You want to make sure everything they're doing and saying is accurate and aligned with your brand. This will also just help you catch any mistakes or misunderstandings, anything from a spelling error to thinking you were getting 2 posts but they only made 1. Reviewing everything just ensures that you're getting everything you wanted out of the partnership. Once you've got all of that negotiated and the influencer starts posting the content to their page, a lot of businesses think that that's the end of the partnership, but they're wrong. You want to make sure that you track results afterwards. What goal were you trying to accomplish in working with the influencer? I'm guessing beyond brand awareness, it was direct sales or leads. If that's the case, there are a couple ways you can measure how many sales you are getting from the influencer posting about your brand. The most common method is to give the influencer a discount code to share with their followers that's specific to their name or username. That way, every time you receive a sale on your website that uses that influencer's discount code, you'll know it came from their followers and you can credit the sale to them when gauging how effective the partnership was. If you don't want to give a discount or percentage off, you can use what's called UTM tracking. If you've never heard of a UTM code, don't be scared. It's super simple. It's essentially where you put a tracking code in your URL so that you can track where clicks came from, and you can set this up for free with a super simple website. So let me just show you. My go-to is the Google Analytics UTM builder, and I'll put the link on screen for this site. So again, rolling with a yarn example, let's say we want to send people to our website www.yarn.com, and we want to know how many website clicks came from an influencer whose username was WeLoveYarn123. You put your website name in the website URL field. You put YouTube as the campaign source. I'm going to put YT for short. For campaign medium, I'm going to put FebVid for February video because, for example's sake, let's say that that's when the influencer is promoting our yarn company in her February video. And for the campaign name, I'm going to put their username, WeLoveYarn123. Then when we scroll down, we see that it's generated a URL for us to use that still simply sends people to www.yarn.com, but now it has these little codes in it so that when you're looking at your analytics, you'll know where these people came from. You can shorten the URL, which I would recommend, and then give that URL to the influencer to utilize. Make sure the influencer only uses that URL and that only that influencer uses that URL. You'll need to adjust the UTM and therefore the URL for each influencer you utilize, because again, this is supposed to tell you how many people clicked from an individual influencer's account over to your website. And if multiple influencers are using the same URL with the same tracking codes in it, it defeats the purpose. And when you're entering in the campaign, medium, and source in your UTM code builder, you can honestly make it say whatever you want it to. The website I was on has prompts for you, but you just want it to be information that you'll remember and understand later when looking at your analytics. Now, once you get orders or leads coming in, you'll want to have a system in place to nurture them properly and maximize their conversion value. So I want to leave you with this and let you in on a secret as to how we do that for our thousands of small business clients. We use a program called Marketing Tank. We call it our all-in-one customer acquisition system because it has all the functions a small business needs in one tool. You can schedule out weeks of content in advance across multiple platforms, collect leads, create funnels and landing pages, even with zero website experience. You can automate text and emails, send invoices, collect payments, and more, all with one tool. This way, once you get the lead or sale from an influencer, you have a system in place set up to nurture them for repeat purchases and or client longevity. So if you're interested in checking that out in a free trial, link will be down below.